And if you don't have a foundation of knowing you matter, you're trying to matter through the rules. And the rules can't plug the hole of not mattering. And eventually, you want to kick the rules to the curb. You start to rebel. It's like, F these rules. They're not giving me what I want, so why should I respect them? And so we end up on a journey of rebelling because our true underlying cause is we want to feel we matter. We want to know who we are, and that if we know who we are, we know we matter.
That is so interesting. Wow. I was honestly confused about this whole topic. I'm so glad you did the deep diving for me and sharing it here. But
why are you so lazy?
No, because I honestly thought that, like a transgender, maybe they are gay, just like gays, where they've got, this thing that they've just been born into a wrong body sort of thing. That was my well, that's where I was going with this trans thing. But yeah, I mean, you've given a different perspective that I've never thought of, and I think that's really refreshing. But can I ask, have you seen any trans swap back permanently?
Yeah. Oh no, I've seen someone do the operation, change, and then realize that's not them either. And then go through a bit of a crisis of, I think I really need to start rethinking this whole thing. And what am I doing in my life? I know someone like that.
Oh my gosh, imagine that.
And that they are an inspiration, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because they used to make me coffee at a cafe.
Right.
And they was such an incredible person that I just loved being around them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I would see them as a guy, but they were actually a girl that turned into a guy. So normally you see the original biology and you get mixed up. I was doing the opposite by accident, but they wanted to be a they, and then I would mix it up, right?
Right.
And the level of love and grace of them holding space for me, not to make me feel uncomfortable by getting it wrong, was actually quite special for me, because I got, wow, like this is these are real people who, they want love. They just want to get on. They want harmony. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to guilt people and but it's when there's anger, because it's like the world has let you down because they gave you all the rules to belong and none of them worked. Eventually, it's like you're going around picking fights, and you see all these videos of people with pronouns abusing, a McDonald's cashiers and all that for getting there.
Yeah.
And it's like one-upmanship of trying to belittle someone and make them feel bad. And by the way, this is the other thing. Those that are most noisy are just minority, but they make us believe that this is the true fabric of our society.
Yeah.
But I don't live this pronoun issue every day or even every week. It's not really a part of my everyday life.
Yeah, same.
So it makes you realize that sometimes divide and sensationalism does hoard the media and the online social media space. But at the same time, I think we shouldn't waste those trends. We should deep dive into them together and come to the center. It's great right here.
Yeah, it is so interesting because, everything you see on social media is just an extreme that's been sensationalized into a hashtag, and so kids very easily go, no, that's rubbish. And parents use that as a weapon, on both sides. I'm religious. Look at this guy belittling this trans guy belittling this cashier, with pronouns, and then use that as a stay with me in this religion, in this conservative side. And then the other good side go the other way around and say, look at this person, saying that, what's that guy's that host on TV? He's very, very crude with his comments about, trans. And he's like, you know what? They can be a black penguin tomorrow, and they go to the other extreme. And then the people who are on the other side go, look at how insensitive this person is, and use that as a tool to get, I get what you're saying. it is interesting. And they don't promote critical thinking. You don't go, what's behind that? Like all the stuff you just mentioned. That
they promote tribalism. It's like, I know I have people on my side.
Yeah.
And I know that people love hearing me bag the other side, and I get more ratings.
Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle.
You don't know
the
Dave
comedian?
He was famous for like a good 2 years because he was bagging LGBT trends.
Yeah, but what I noticed about Dave Chappelle was he was catching the nuances that didn't make sense.
Yes.
But he was also holding the space of his love for real them. People who were in there. So I would say that in the division and in the heat, they were trying to cancel him because they were in the mood of canceling.
Yes.
It was like the tribe was already salivating with hate and ready to look at anyone who remotely looked like they were the other side with a platform to shoot them down. You see?
Yeah.
Both sides anyway. And so the other thing is that we're after the drug of being right. So if I'm on membership on one side, my followers want dopamine hits of being righteous.
Yes.
So if I can represent them with righteousness, energy, and use my articulation skills to create the pseudo-logic bubble of one side, because you know when you feel that you're right, and you feel that all your logic all fits together, but then someone comes along and says, "Oh, did you consider this?" And you went, "Oh, well, that just made my whole logic bubble burst." And now you update it. Now you got a new logic bubble, which means the previous logic bubble was a pseudo-logic. It was pretending it was the full package of logic. Well, this is echo chamber territory. When two sides hate each other and think they're right and the other side is wrong, that is two pseudo-logic bubbles coinciding, and the only place you can burst those bubbles is coming to the center to look for the value and the logic in each bubble, and look for the pseudo parts in each bubble.
And that is very difficult because you need to talk to each other at a level where there's no ego and there's humility and a readiness to be vulnerable, when it is almost impossible in that scenario where you have two opposing forces with strong opinions. That's not going to happen. So how do you sort of bring them together? I mean, there's no way.
Well, there is a way, but it's hard. And it's hard because who are you? If you make you a tribal member, that's who you are, you're a part of that tribe,
my identity,
then you're going to have an existential crisis leaving that bubble.
Yeah.
Because who are you outside of that bubble, right? And this is our dilemma. The reason why we're so easily divided is because we don't have a strong sense of who we are, which means we will latch onto any membership of belonging because we're so hungry for that feeling of belonging.
And you protect it once you're in it.
Yeah. You know? And so I was thinking like that center that I keep talking about, right? Coming to the center. It's neutral. It's quiet. There's no charge on you to be any one thing. But there is a sense of principles and truth that you exist because you're loved, and that you have the free will to decide who you want to be, but you don't have to rush anything because you're in an abundant world and you're able to take in your environment fully to then decide how to make meaning out of who you want to be next. Like, you slow it right down. You're no longer defined by any clusters of ideas that you have to hold on to because you're nothing, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think we have that fabric in our global culture that's strong enough for people to just go to the center with courage, confidence, and a sense of purposeful surrender, to be ready for any part of them to be torn apart because it was pseudo-logic baked into some crappy identity that they were trying to belong to.
Because that's not being taught at anywhere. That's one.
Yeah, that's true. And also, even if you're learning, religion or spiritual teachings, you're not calibrating it into your everyday of truly actualizing those principles.
Yeah.
Because what a coincidence. Christian teachings, turn the other cheek. In other words, you see, turn the other cheek is don't let them slap you around. Oh, they slapped you on one cheek. Well, give them the other cheek. Let them slap you around. Be their bitch. I don't think that was the teaching. I think the teaching was turn the other cheek. Look at all angles. Look at the other side of things. Look at the other side of things. Look at more.
Yeah.
Do you know when I was a kid? Sorry, you're not about to say something.
No. You go ahead.
I used to, while I was driving, when I say kid, like 18, 19, but even before that, you know what I would do? I would argue with someone in my mind. Then I would pretend I was them and argue back with myself. And you know what I noticed would happen?
What?
I would neutralize myself because I was good at arguing their position.
Right.
And it made me understand them.
That's a very interesting technique.
I kept doing it as a habit. And what it made me realize, Aslan, is that, oh gosh, everyone can just see things in a way that's real for them.
Yeah, pseudo-logic.
And just a little bit of mental gymnastics to look at life through their eyes and give it a good shot at arguing for their view properly makes me realize there's a lot of value in their view as well. And it would just balance me every time I did it in my head.
That's very smart of you to do at 16. Was it 16 you said?
Yeah, even younger. But like I had this habit of doing it. And
interesting.
And I honestly think that it should be a really good exercise for people to, as a daily discipline, choose someone that you don't agree with and argue their side. Maybe it was seeded in me from the debates we used to do at school, actually.
Oh.
Do you remember, right? You'd listen to one side, or if you were one side.
You were not listening, but yeah. I mean.
Well, Aslan, if you listened
yeah.
just once, you'd realize, oh, yeah, no, he's making a good point. And then the other person talks, they're making a good point. And you go, damn, like I've started to feel like more balance between there. And then you have to choose a winner. And it's not that easy to just say, oh, they're a clear winner half the time because each side did such a good job.
I remember I was in a debate, and I remember I wasn't listening when they were fighting. I was preparing my notes. Even though there was truth in what they were saying, you'll find a reason why it's not true. But then, after that, after the emotions have died down, then you go, oh, actually, there's a point there. Yeah. But during the debate, because you want to win, I remember that was very strong. But you're right. I mean, as a judge, you won't have those emotions, so it'll be a lot harder to go,
yeah,
hey, wait a minute, But this is I like that exercise. I'm going to adopt it. I'm going to steal it. I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Because, I've got that. Yeah, I can use that a lot.
So when I go to do it and I can't find it anywhere, it's because you stole it.
Yeah. No, I'm so interested now in what you're saying because, man, I was confused about the whole trans thing. Like, I didn't know if it was a mental illness, as some people were saying it, or I don't know if it was like another gender, like a real transgender.
Yeah.
Like for me, gay is, I know a lot of gay people.
Yeah.
And they've never sort of turned back on being straight.
Gay, yeah.
I mean, from gay being straight, I've always seen, and they're a lot happier. And I mean, I still see a few gays that are depressed. Obviously, there's a lot of them. I mean, this is normal, right? But with trans, it's more like I didn't know. Like, are they trying to experiment, or are they mentally ill, or is that, or like, And so having that perspective of, they are on this self-discovery sort of path, and they are free to do whatever they want and have that control, and experience it for themselves is really interesting. But then coming back to the roles of male and female, you said something which, so you're saying that male and female are there for like the basic reproductive sort of to sustain.
Yeah.
But then people slapped on roles like male, you have to be stoic, females, you have to be, and then.
Okay, so you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
Through evolution, you're testing ideas together. So initially, you've got a female, and then you're forced as a female to be heavier, to be less mobile. Your body is soft. You've been designed to be nurturing so that baby just feels the connection, feels understood, compassion. The guy has got more muscles, more bone density to just run, chase after food, hunt. And so what happens is that the man has to keep going into dangerous territory from a primal perspective, dangerous territory to find what's needed for the family.
Right.
You say? Now, so that's the biological evolution initially. It was a natural extension of the male-female function of procreation that the bodies just naturally extended into complementary functions.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Then evolution in society started to mean technology and everything means we needed to hunt less. Just go to the supermarket and the meat's cut up already, But we still held all the social constructs that got built in extension to that biology, right? In other words, the man goes and does the job. He goes hunting for the money to go to the supermarket. But the mum loves the nest, the house, making it beautiful, a loving space. She's there for the children through the day, takes them to school, brings them back. There's this sense of extension of let's complement each other. Now, there's a real value in that because teamwork, complementing strengths, weaknesses, it created a lot of social construct, right?
Yeah.
But we got lost in the social constructs being developed for function of raising children in a steady, stable, good household and equipping the children with, the skills of the parents to keep it going. We got lost in that being us when it was a way to keep the opportunities to be human happening on the planet. We just got lost in it being us.
Yeah, it becomes your identity.
Yes. And if it becomes your identity, you defend it.
Yeah.
As if someone's attacking you just by them choosing to be a different social construct than you. They're a threat to you now because who are they to sever themselves from something that they are? It means they're mentally ill.
Yeah, because that's my identity. I see what you're saying now. So you can easily just slap a label on that person and say this person is mentally because you cannot think outside of your pseudo-logic. I see what you're saying. And very interesting, man. Like this why I'm so interested in what you just said is this role of being this guy who hunts for money.
Yeah.
And I remember in Asia, I grew up in an Asian family, obviously. And there's this thing that you cannot connect emotionally as a man. You cannot cry. You cannot. And so it was, even with friends, you stop crying, man. Like, don't be so emo. They use this word like emo and you're just trying to find yourself. And then the funny thing is when I allowed myself to be vulnerable, I felt more human than that role that I have to be this man. So it was very interesting for me that you said that because I remember clearly in one part of my life, I was like, am I really emo? Am I weak? And
that's really good. That's a really good insight because when you go into complementary social constructs of roles,
right,
you end up and you start to think that's you, it means you're now denying the other secondary traits in you, like a male having feminine traits, a female having masculine traits. You start to deny it, suppress it in you because you think it's embarrassing or it doesn't represent you and it's not allowed to express because you're a man. You don't cry. You don't have feelings.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what a load of crap that is, because the truth is this: everything a woman has, a man has, and vice versa, in the traits to deal with problems, to deal with opportunities.
Yeah.
Like if you need to be feminine for your son, soften, be nurturing, that is a real important function for you as a man to bring it in the right context. To think you have to keep, like
this character, these traits are for this sex. This trait is for that.
Exactly. And even male, female in the bedroom, the man can be strong and can be a leader, and it turns on a woman. But a man also needs to lean into sensitivity and have intuition and know how to be gentle and intuitive in how to caress and be affectionate to a woman so she feels the intimate connection, not this
robot.
Robot or this big slab of muscle meat just pounding her. I didn't want to say that, but it's funny. And, they're just falling on her and going, F you, And it's like, oh, how, like, wow, And so, and also I do know that we are generally just wanting both. We want masculine, we want feminine. So a woman with a man that's too feminine and not enough masculine, she craves the beast. She craves the person that says, we'll be doing this, we'll be doing that, But if a man is too masculine, then the woman craves the feminine in the man and goes, where's your sensitivity? Where's your romantic nature? And so we want a bit of balance, but we want to be able to pivot more to the part that actually truly serves in the social construct of a role, in the complement as a default, but we can't be rigid in the default as if it's us.
Well said. Well said. Wow. Okay. No, that's very interesting.
And, it does say to us, like, shouldn't we be multidimensional? Shouldn't we be able to absorb what's in front of us and take on a form that creates a beautiful way to engage it for a great experience of a value exchange,
Mm-hmm.
And that one day it needs more of this and another day needs more of that based on what you're reading in front of you. But if we're just coming in preloaded with, how to be like a robot with a software program, I'm masculine, I do it this way. And everything around you needs a little bit of softness and gentleness because of what's happened. And you don't know how to be it because you're so invested in I am this. You're just misfiring and causing damage because you don't know how to adapt. You don't know how to complement the occasion.
It is so funny we are talking about this today. I just told my wife yesterday. I'm not sure if I have a mental disorder, but I do this thing that I realized once I was out with my boys. I haven't hung around with them for like 7 years. And I hung around with them for once, just us, without the families. And so I realized I have this character, this persona
that comes out of nowhere.
I've got 5. I told her I find out in the plane. I was thinking I have 5 characters, and it all suits the surroundings. So
chameleon-like.
And I don't know if that was is this a mental disorder? I don't know. Anyway, what I said was with these guys, I am completely reckless, inappropriate, childish. Like completely a guy who doesn't plan. Like I just go, I don't care. I don't remember your name.
Which is so opposite you in other areas of life.
And then in work, I am the opposite. Everyone's like, I was like, why are you so rigid on your plans? What's going on? And I'm charismatic, driven. I know what's going on. Like that character doesn't exist with my friends. my good friends, you know? And so I was like, was wondering, is it a disease? Like, am I inherently broken inside where I'm changing like a chameleon to suit the social construct? Because I know when to pull. I told her, I know when to pull which trait to suit the occasion to bring out the best in the other person and in the construct, you know?
Yeah, look, I reckon there's two sides to this. There's the side of your adaptive nature to be truly complementing the dynamics of the environment you're in, right? There's the other side of you feel you have to be that in that environment.
Oh no, not with my friends. Not I enjoy that character, but at work,
you enjoy it. If you enjoy it, it means it's reasonably in balance. So you are reckless and silly, but you don't put it to a point where you're going to hurt yourself. Yeah. Now, see, that is not a mental disease, but isn't it interesting, or mental disorder? Isn't that interesting how you've been raised, we've been raised to associate that level of adaptive nature as a sickness because you're supposed to be this predictable, rigid, one version of being for all occasions. That's really telling.
Oh.
That's really telling.